Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Matriarch Motivation. Matriarch Motivation is a podcast I created because I felt there was a voice missing in the motivational speaking community, especially the fact that it's male dominated. And I believe women should have a greater stance in that right. So, I am someone who absolutely thrives on motivational speeches. I love the work of Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Andy Frisella, Jocko Willink, and these men constantly inspire me to do better, live larger, live harder. But there are times where I go looking for a female voice and a female power. And there are many women who have done speeches who are extremely inspiring. Michelle Obama, Meryl Streep, Angelina Jolie, Oprah, Ellen. There's a number of I won't say one-offs, but some-offs. But the women who make it their passion to be speaking to women and motivate them in our power, which I believe is a spiritual and emotional power that is largely untapped and often pushed and cast aside for the highly aggressive and brute force motivation of men. And the women I do see who are very great at their job of motivational speeches and inspiring speeches often share a exterior source for their power. They are sharing, talking about how the universe or how they've manifested a spirituality or God outside of them or above them. And I am someone who believes deeply in the power of ours coming from within, that our own spirits guide us, and that our own emotions and thoughts and our capabilities and ideas can come from within us, and that they do. And I don't need to be inspired or pushed or led by a greater power outside myself, that I have it within and I build it and I make it and I create it on my own. And I wanted to create a voice. I wanted to put out into the world what I wish to see, a voice for women who believe the same. So this was the birth of Matriarch Motivation. And I hope this inspires many women who need what I was looking for. So this 4-part series to open Matriarch Motivation Podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Anchor, Google, and you will also find me speaking on YouTube. I am video recording all of these. If you're watching this, you can see that. So and I decided to share my journey as a surrogate. I am currently 4 months pregnant with a baby girl for 2 amazing fathers that are based in France, and I am proudly and happily on this journey. But it's a long time coming. If you've listened to the first 2 episodes, you know where this started back in November of 2018. And the ovarian cyst ruptures that I experienced and was experiencing. And then at the end of episode 2, we covered how I finally got to the decision of surrogacy, and that started with an idea to have a baby on my own. That after multiple ruptures, ovarian cyst ruptures, I was sick and fed up with simply not having built the family I wanted, not having carried on having children, and that was a major struggle for me. And so let's start off with who am I? My name is Julia, and I am the founder of Pretty Aggressive Industries. My story started back when I decided to recover from a abusive, toxic, intergenerational legacy. And I wrote a book on the resiliency tools that it takes to thrive in this life instead of simply surviving. Many of the skills and coping mechanisms that we don't learn when we come from adverse childhood experiences and legacies of trauma and abuse in family systems. So from that, I built a business on helping women recover from those childhood backgrounds and those traumatic abuse family legacies and intergenerational, transgenerational abuse. And I am also now a certified personal trainer and certified nutrition coach, all wrapped in to address mind, body, and spirit healing for people, women who have been through hard knock lives, school of hard knocks, and want to change what that looks like for them. To start running and sprinting and breathing hard in this life instead of feeling like you're drowning all the time. So that's the background where I come from, and I deeply believe that sharing our stories and sharing our experiences as women, we are a very tribal species, and building communities of information sharing is hardwired into the female psyche, and that is where we derive our power from. And I believe that I believe in contributing to that. So here we are. So last episode, just to recap a little bit, I found that treatment for ovarian cyst ruptures was having multiple ovarian cyst ruptures was contraceptive or birth control, or to be trying to have children. So my history with that is I currently have a 5-year-old daughter, 5.5, and her father and I split when she was 2, and I spent many years, including the time that I was having ovarian cyst ruptures, very bitter that I was not continuing my family, that I wasn't continuing to have children. I wanted to have many, and I wanted to have many with the man that I married and the man that I had my first child with. And life just doesn't fucking work out that way. If so many of us have learned anything, life is not going to be wrapped in a box with a pretty bow. And I think that one of the most powerful capabilities that we have as women is to adapt, evolve, change, make decisions that allow us to continue living the best lives we can. And that when shit hits the fan, we figure it out. So that's what I did. that's what I figured out. I came to a point through the ovarian cyst ruptures, we as women, we really connect our bodies and our spirits. We really do. If we get in touch, if we pay attention, if we are inspired and guided well, we can develop incredible connections between our body and our spirit. And sometimes this can really elevate the way we live our lives, but it can also be extremely damaging. Especially, the most obvious example is how the media talks to us about our bodies and how we talk to ourselves about our bodies after experiencing the media. So everything from body shaming to body harm to believing that one of our systems is malfunctioning if it's not allowing us to walk the path of a maternal being. So many of my questions and struggles with my ovarian cyst ruptures is, what will this look like if I want to keep having children? And I turned that fear back in on myself throughout the process of living ovarian cyst ruptures, where I learned that if you are attempting to reproduce, if you are working on having kids, or if you are reproducing, that your chances of having ovarian cyst ruptures lower from something like 30 to 60%. So the story I created in my head was a fear-based self-hatred story of a spiritual one, where I believed that the universe was trying to communicate to me that because I wasn't continuing to have children, my reproductive system was punishing me. Can you believe that? That's a story I was telling myself about what my body was doing to me. That my own female internal genitalia, what made me a woman, was punishing me for not doing something I wanted to do that I could do as a woman, that I wanted so badly. And that this was a message from the universe, the world at large, to continue my family system, to continue having children. It can be crazy, absolutely crazy making what we tell ourselves. And that's a story I had decided on. And I want women to understand how powerful our own words can be on ourselves, and how they can release us and they can empower us, or they can carve us into a corner, and they can deafen us, they can limit us. And this story, although walking that path led me to where I am and who I am now, there was a gear shift change I made at one point, which we'll talk about later, that allowed me to release that fear-based story, that I was suffering negative consequences for not participating in something I really wanted in life, which in many times we hear from many other stories, from women and men, from everyone, from people, that happens, that when we go against, when we're not living our passions, when we're not participating in dreams that we feel so deeply about, that our shit just gets fucked up. Every next step we take is a step on nails and pins and hot coals. That if you're working a desk job and trying to become a writer, that every day you go back to your desk job, that your life just gets worse. And if you would just give up the ghost and go be a writer, that you would stop suffering. And I was telling myself, I was using that blueprint of a story on, if you don't start having children that you dream of having, you're going to continue suffering ovarian cyst ruptures. And in some ways I still look back and although that story is toxic in a way, wondering that and walking that path for a while, walking that belief, led me to where I am. But when I do coaching with my clients, and they talk through a story in a negative way, or they try to set a goal in a negative way, one of the tools I use is to change the language and change the wording into positive words and positive set goals. That it's not about punishment, it's not about stopping, it's about what we should start. And it's not about what's damaging us, it's about what we should be releasing. So starting that path, I went looking to begin my own family. And I looked at the way I'd set up my life. A lot of people, I'm almost ashamed or embarrassed sometimes, which is my own language, about admitting that I'm a single mom. And one, that's kind of not true. I mean, when we hear the word single mom, we think of someone who's almost it's changing, that we used to think about someone in a destitute situation where it's money is a struggle and safety and security is a struggle, and that they have no help and no support, or that turning into their families for their prior, like their mother and their father and aunts and sisters and whatever, for support is somehow a negative, and that they struggle with their parenting, they're probably a bad parent, or that their life is very hard. But that is not true. And I've experienced it myself. One, I co-parent extremely civilly with my ex-husband, that we are fully committed to the security and healthy bonding and cooperation for our daughter's sake. And we share custody very well, and we support each other. And when someone is struggling or sick, we help out. We're not shitty. And that I have purposely developed a healthy support system of friends so that when I want my children to have friends and I need female friends to connect with, that I have built that, and that I have people I can rely on, that if I need something picked up from the store and I can't get away from my kid, or can't get away, if I can't step away from my parenting responsibilities, or I need help, or something comes up, an appointment, and I need her watch, that I have a community. And also that I have secure care for my child, and that I make enough money to have savings and put good food on the table and always pay all of my bills and then have extra money. Like, it's not the 1970s where this is a huge social faux pas and like we're a leper. So all of this contributed to, as I was looking at the gap of what being on contraceptive, giving me a 10-month window instead of a 6-month window of ovarian cyst ruptures, to having a child for myself, and not one medically or physically needing a male partner in order to do that, I decided to have one for myself. And this decision came probably at late 2019. And I kind of proposed this question to a few people in my close-knit circle. What do you think would happen? What would that look like? Do you think what do you see? Do you think I'm capable of that? Am I crazy? And to think through what mat leave would look like for me with a new kid, and not having a spouse, and being a single income home, and feeling very quickly, having other loved ones respond to me that they think that's a great idea, and that they think I'm capable of it. If anyone's capable of that, it's you, Julia, is what I hear a lot of. And so I went searching. I went looking probably in January of 2020 of this year, and I think around by February, my experience with that was looking for a fertility clinic and costing out, and understanding that it might not be a one-time thing. So understanding the science of it, that not every embryo transfer or sperm donor medical visit will yield results, that I may have to go through this process multiple times before actually becoming impregnated. How much will that cost me? How much am I willing to pay for that experience? Do I know any men in my community who would be willing to donate for free? I mean, I'm sure they love practicing, but the amount of legal responsibility or legal boundaries that they would have to consider that. And so to look through fertility clinics and to find Proud Fertility. They have, now this is a great company, and they offer a range of fertility, services. Now, they have a location listed in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and they have their main location, and it was developed by a man named Nathan Chan, who's an incredible person. He's very loving, and he developed the first base in Calgary, I believe, and then a second location in Vancouver, and another location out in the east coast of Canada. So finding Proud Fertility online, it was that and another company called the Olive Tree, I believe, both based close to my hometown in Vancouver, BC. So as I'm looking at this website, I choose Proud Fertility and I click on services. And in the drop-down menu, there's fertility, IVF treatment, and surrogacy. And it blew my mind that I hadn't thought about this. My choice of, would I rather have ovarian cyst ruptures or would I rather experience pregnancy again? That was an immediate yes. And then having a child for not just 18 years, because no one's your kid just for 18 years. They're your kid for the rest of their lives. You never stop being a parent, ever. And I get this, even at this age of only having a 5-year-old, I know she's we all have kids forever, and me going to my parents as their child still. They're not done being parents. They never will be. So to understand what a long-term development or experience that is for just experiencing 9 to 10 months of a pregnancy to not have ovarian cyst ruptures. Like, I was very ready for this. But to have surrogacy come up in the services menu, I clicked on it. It was almost immediate. I had this powerful curiosity in kind of knowing what that was, but not remembering that was an option, not recognizing that that was an option that I could participate in. And it took a matter of minutes of reading the descriptions and reading what that entailed that I knew surrogacy was for me. I knew that was something I wanted to give. I had to take a short break there. My filming got interrupted. So now I have tea. But leading off from me recognizing that surrogacy was the right answer for me. I don't typically believe in, or I it's such a battle with me. I don't do a lot of the woo-woo. I don't do a lot of messages from the universe or God. And I resist and reject a lot of that, either suggested advice or suggested happenings. But I battle with it. I also battle with the idea of having intuition and what that is, or a gut instinct. And when I was looking through what surrogacy, confirming what it was, going through the Proud Fertility website, I had powerful feelings that was a right path for me. That the words in my head were, I should give someone else a child who can't have one before asking the universe to supply me with my own. That just felt right to me. That I love pregnancy, I enjoy pregnancy, and I believe in helping others before I help myself. And to speak to the woman's psyche on that, the way our wiring is. And I went through the process quite quickly. I inquired almost immediately as a potential surrogate, and the process went quite quickly. Where the company Proud Fertility had a lot of support. They had a lot of help. They helped me a lot through the process. So this became just a total gear switch. It wasn't an argument. It wasn't a debate. I looked at the information. I looked at a couple videos. I looked at a few other experiences. It took me a few days of research, and all of it just continued to lead me. Yes, this is right for me. Yes, I'm capable of this. Yes, I'm a good candidate. Yes, this is something I really want to participate in. This is a journey I want to take. And I think a lot of people in general maybe rarely experience that amount of power. And some people explain it as the universe. Some people explain it as God or faith or another power. But I felt mine came from knowing myself. With the amount of work I've done in changing my viewpoint of the world and changing how I show up and changing how I participate in circumstances, that I willingly dive into something. Things don't happen to me. I affect the world around me. I am my own fate. That amount of power I hold, that I've developed and designed, and the confidence I've built in my actions and who I am and what I'm capable of, over years and years of hard practice and lessons and failures and recoveries and successes in that process of developing myself that way, where I came from not believing that about myself at all, from a hardcore victimhood mentality from my childhood, that choosing surrogacy was a powerful stance of who I was and who I wanted to be, who I want to be as a person, and what I want to put out into the world. So I started jumping through the hoops, as I would say. There was a lot of information to fill out. There was a lot of understanding that I'd be going through medical tests, that I would have to share a lot of personal bodily function information. And some of it was fear. I had fears about my ovarian cyst ruptures and what that would mean, that I wasn't just trying to get pregnant with a partner. I was hoping to be a optimum housing unit for someone else's child, and that I was going to be a responsible facility, a responsible oven for someone else's bun. And I wanted the proof that I could hold a pregnancy, and I was worried because of the ruptures that I wouldn't be able to. So actually having a check-in with my gynecologist around that time, I asked her if I would be capable, if that was an answer for me, getting pregnant. And she said it's probably the best answer to have. Like, absolutely I would be able to get pregnant, and there's no reason I shouldn't be able to, and that's a fantastic treatment path for not having ruptures. So the process went rather quickly, where I was, the company is just set up so well. It's such a fluid series of events where you're put through a psychosocial analysis to make sure that you're not crazy, and not like trying to have someone pay you to make a baby that you're going to try to keep or steal, which is it's a big thing. It's a big issue that a lot of other people worry about, and that like even after women do give up the baby from a surrogacy, not give up, but yeah, give. Even when women give the baby to the intended parents, there's often times of remorse, or times of other wishes, which we'll absolutely get into that journey and that path in the next video. But I went through profiles. I got to choose the intended parents, and they chose me back through developing profiles and having multiple videos and written profiles shared with me. And that was a beautiful journey and exploration of itself. To be able to know so firmly, and the experience I wanted to have going through this, and to be able to match myself with another couple looking for a child who wanted a similar, if not same, experience of a surrogacy journey that matched my own. So the answer for ovarian cyst ruptures had come to me helping someone else complete their family, and that started to really change my spiritual dialogue about the story I was telling myself about the ovarian cyst ruptures I was having, where I was able to take hold of my story and start rewriting the meaning behind it, which I believe women really miss out on the guidance of their capability of that we are so in charge of our thoughts and having those determine our feelings and our perspective about our lives. And we need to begin fiercely harnessing that. And yeah, I was able to change that story from I'm having ovarian cyst ruptures as punishment, my body is telling me to have more children, to I I feel the need to help create, develop, fertilize, incubate more family systems, and to also turn it around and look at how I'm already creating many family systems in my life, that I'm already building a parent-child relationship, or a mentor-mentee, or a crone to maiden mentorship, or a mother to maiden mentorship in many other areas of my life. That I do this with my clients, that my friends and I do this back and forth in a peer way, that the more women friends I make who are moms, that their children become part of the village of children that I care about, that I build security for, as well as now becoming the mother of a child for someone else to start their family unit, that this is the gift I want to give. And even if I'm not having my own child in a selfish, like nuclear family sense, I can become a mother on a greater scale. I can continue my motherhood building journey on a larger scale than just birthing my own baby. And that was the language change that I made about the journey and path that I was on, the lessons that I was learning, and the path I wanted to walk, and the life I wanted to forge for myself. So that's how I came to the surrogacy journey. And I think this is going to turn into a 5-part, because next, just as I had matched and begun the medical processes for having a baby for the intended parents I had matched with, COVID hit. And that started a very different journey for all of us, not just who I'm talking about in this story. So next episode, I will share with you what my surrogacy journey at the beginning and height of COVID looked like for me, and how that changed the path and changed everything. So until next time, I will see you in part 4. See you in a bit.